I just want you guys to understand that there is no permission needed for you to live the life that you want to live, to do the things that you want to do. Your desires. We hold the key to that. Within ourselves. Nobody outside of us is going to come and give us a clearance to do what we want to do. You're asking permission in places where none was required. None was ever required. So we're waiting for doors to open that were never locked. That power was always within us. We hold that inside of us, always. But I say that, and I also recognize that there is a difference between permission and timing. They are not the same thing. There is indeed wait or realness in waiting for moments that are better than others, conditions that facilitate the movement. I get that. That is indeed something to be considerate of. But you don't want to confuse permission with waiting for the right time, or with waiting for someone to tell you that it's okay. Because one is more strategic, more strategy, and the other one is permission with a different coat, So I say that to say when the time is right, when the conditions are right, and sometimes even when it isn't, you got to move. You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you want to do. You got to do it scared. The thing that you're uncertain about, the thing that you're uncomfortable with, the thing that it's not really guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed outcome. Sometimes you got to try it anyway. I know it to be true that you hold more power over the shape of your life than you've probably been giving yourself credit for. That autonomy is very real, and you got to own it. And then there, behind door number 2, is a part that matters just as much, maybe more. There is the recognition that you are not the only person living this life. The recognition that we are a society. And I know that sounds obvious. I know that sounds obvious, but stay with me here, because somewhere along the way, and I know that we can all feel this happening, is that the way the idea of personal freedom got untethered from personal responsibility should not be the case. Those two things were never meant to be separated. They are intertwined. And it's because we do exist within a society, a collective, a shared space. And no, it's not perfect at all. It's not always fair. And we know that not everyone within the society is treated fairly or equally. And we got to be honest about that. But it indeed is a shared space. And shared spaces require something from the people that are inside of them. where they recognize that they consider consideration, not conformity or agreement or shrinking so that someone else feels all right. It requires consideration. It does require a conscious recognition that your choices have reached beyond yourself. That not just you is always involved in the outcome of decisions. And I think that's what happens when recognition goes missing. When enough people decide that their individual desires are the only operating principle, when freedom becomes that freedom to take without regard to what that taking costs the person standing next to you. And I know you can see that. I know you can. And I know you have. We've seen the slow unraveling of things that have only been held together because enough people decided that they were worth holding. Things like civility, accountability, the basic agreement to show up as a member of something larger than yourself. Excuse me. That unraveling, it doesn't come in clanging pots and banging on walls. It really sneaks in there like some invisible paw that descends upon us, in those small little surrenders. And the accumulation of people who stopped considering the room because the room stopped considering them. Or because they decided that room was no longer worth it. And I'm not here to tell you that the room has always been kind, because it hasn't. Some of us have been giving and considerate and showing up for those rooms that never really returned that. That exhaustion in showing up is very, very legitimate. But what I keep coming back to is real freedom. The kind that holds up over time. It knows the difference between living freely and living without regard for anyone else. Your personal freedom doesn't require anyone else's diminishment. Your becoming doesn't have to cost someone else something. Your sovereignty is yours. It's real and it's yours, and it was never meant to be wielded like a weapon against the people sharing the space with you, sharing society with you. Excuse me. So, I want you to go and do and be who you are fully and unapologetically, without waiting for someone to say it's okay, on your own terms. On your own terms, because it was always okay. You just had to say it to yourself. It was always okay, and I have the ability to give myself the permission to go and do that. So go and go be the thing. But don't be a dick about it. Sit with yourself there and continue traveling.